once again is on. You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome everyone to episode 128 of the Tristain Sports Show Toss. Yes, it is your main man, T-Squared, Tristain Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We got to get into the college basketball teams of the state of Wisconsin. How have they done? We got to get into Milwaukee Bucks basketball. Another thorough dismantling. Starting to look real familiar. We got to talk Packers. Yes, unfortunately, we got to talk the Green Bay Packers. And then the toss sweep, we got to talk about the men and women's Final Fours. And the XFL. Where are we in Week 6? Where do we stand? We'll talk about it. But you all know how things go down here on Toss. We start things off with State of the State, where we speak about the state of sports in the state of Wisconsin. And let's duck in with our college basketball squads in the state of Wisconsin. I mentioned in the teaser, the Final Fours have been set. Both the men and the women's teams are down to their Final Four. There are no Wisconsin teams a part of it, unfortunately. The Marquette women losing in their first round game to South Florida in overtime by 2. Good season, heartbreaking loss. Had opportunities to win that game, just could not finish it. The Marquette men's basketball team, they get ousted by a tough Michigan State squad in the round of 32. Their first tournament win since 2013, I believe. Shaka Smart still in the running for Coach of the Year nationally. If not for that first half drought to start the game, Marquette wins. They move on to at least the Sweet 16. I had them when I eventually did make a bracket, which was just absolutely slaughtered. Makes you look like I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but that's the fun of it. None of us know. That's why they play the games, folks. But I had them in my Final Four. Obviously, they did not make it. None of my Final Four teams made it, so that gives you an idea of how my bracket did. But if not for that drought in the first half, they're probably still dancing at this point. And then the Badger men basketball team did not play well enough to make the field of 68 in the NCAA tournament, accept an invitation to the NIT, reel off 3 straight wins as a 2 seed, get to the semifinals against the Mean Green of North Texas, and subsequently lose that ball game. It was just an atrocious second half of basketball. 3 points in the last over 9 minutes of that ball game. Just absolutely porous, atrocious basketball played by the Badgers, and really a microcosm of how their season went. They were up big in that game. They let the Mean Green come back, get the win, move on to the championship round of the NIT, and Badgers are going home. We'll see what happens with that basketball squad, whether or not they make a change with the head coach and Greg Gard, whose seat continues to get warmer. We'll see what type of players they bring in. But I think everybody's really gearing up for Badger football this upcoming season as opposed to basketball. Not a whole lot to be excited about with Badger basketball coming up, but plenty to be excited about with Badger football. But that's coming up soon. All right, now that we got through the college teams, let's get to Milwaukee Bucks basketball. Let's get to championship level basketball, because that's exactly the type of play you're getting from the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, they do have their lapses. Let's be clear about that. They have been known to give up some big quarters and give up some big leads. But they've been able to overcome that more times than not this season. We're in the last handful of games here in the regular season. You're just trying to balance going for the number 1 seed because, let's be clear, after last season's Game 7 loss in the second round to the Celtics on the road, the Bucks understand the importance of having home court advantage for as many rounds as possible. If that Game 7 is at Fiserv Forum, quite possibly a different story. But it was not. This season, Bucks right back where they were at this point last season, in position to go after it and get the number 1 seed. Mike Budenholzer opted for health. The right move. You need everybody healthy. Unfortunately, Middleton getting hurt in that first round series against the Bulls really curtailed their championship hopes. Getting Brook Lopez back towards the end of the season and in the playoffs was huge. But then you subsequently lost Middleton. Not great. So Mike Budenholzer, understanding the importance of having home court advantage, understanding the importance of health, he's been balancing all of that within these last few games. Sitting guys in back-to-back, sitting guys just not even in back-to-back situations just to give them some rest. Chris Middleton rested tonight. First leg of a back-to-back on the road against the Pacers. A thorough dismantling against them where we saw Drew Holiday put up 51 points, 8 boards, 8 assists. 51 for Drew. Just amazing what he's done this season. Shown his aggressiveness, has carried this team when he's needed to, when Giannis has been out, when Chris has been out, Bobby's been out. Who they turn to? Drew Holiday. And he's answered that call every single time. Giannis dropping a triple-double, 38 points, 17 rebounds, 12 assists, throwing a steal for good measure. 10 and 14 from the line. Brook Lopez continues to be fantastic. 21 points, 8 boards. Throw in 3 blocks. Should be DPOY this year. Cannot understate his importance to this team. He is a very anchor of the defense. Gives you that outside shooting. Still adept on the inside, which I think people really forget. This man became the leading scorer in Brooklyn Nets history, not from his three-point shot because he was not shooting it, nor did he have that type of touch at the time. Those points were scored on the block, inside, and he's still very much adept at that. Hell of a season he's had. And it just continues. Chris Middleton sat. And again, in the first half of this back-to-back, you have Boston tomorrow night as we record this program on a Wednesday. We all know that Chris Middleton has been a Celtics killer. We'll see if that rings true tomorrow night. But this is really what Mike Budenholzer has been doing. He's been sitting guys, give them some rest. Bucks have been able to go and win games without Giannis and keep that 1 seed lead over Boston. Again, it's still a very tight race, and it's tight enough to where you've got to play your guys. But Mike Budenholzer has been playing them reduced minutes. I mean, when you get Giannis to drop 31 and 8 in 24 minutes, I mean, come on. You should not be able to do that in 24 minutes of a ball game. Tonight, Drew played 32 minutes. Giannis played 32 minutes. Brook Lopez, 31 minutes. Not very heavy minutes. So he's doing the right thing. He's mixing resting guys and playing guys reduced minutes to keep the health and keep them from that fatigue factor, while also still trying to go after it. Go after that 1 seed. Thursday night's game against Boston is critical in that quest. You won't clinch the number 1 seed if you beat the Celtics, but you take a step in the right direction. You stack another win. You just have to stay the course. This is the point of the season where teams that are out of it, they're just kind of playing out the string, thinking about vacation. You got teams that are fighting to get into the play-in tournament. Every game is critical. You got other teams who can't really slide down in the standings, but they really can't move that far up, if at all. But they're still trying to gain momentum. They're still trying to win ball games. And you got other teams who are playing for seeding factors. Again, we saw how important home court advantage is in last season's playoffs. It is vital. So teams are trying to fight hard to get into those advantageous situations. Mike Budenholzer doing the right thing between balancing, resting guys, keeping guys healthy, and going for it. And I ain't mad at it. Not mad at it at all. So just stay the course. Keep guys healthy. Go after that 1 seed. If that is, it seems to be their desire. And it looks like Mike Budenholzer, and you can see the difference between how Mike Budenholzer is managing these games between this season and last season. I think if they're able to clinch it, meaning the number 1 seed, with a few games to go, then you'll see most of the guys rest. No need to put them out there. No need to put them in danger. Get some guys some valuable minutes. It's a very deep team, but they definitely some guys that could use some minutes. But stay the course. Bucks continue to win big. Another dismantling of the Pacers tonight. 54-21 overall. This team's starting to look real familiar. Real familiar. Continuing here on Toss. Yeah, we got to talk about them. We got to talk about the Green Bay Packers. And it's the offseason for the Green Bay Packers. But you know, they're starting to ramp up because you got the draft coming soon. What are they going to do in the draft? Will they have more draft capital because this Aaron Rodgers trade is, you can't even call it pending. I said it before and I say it again. Intent and reality are two different things. Aaron Rodgers intends on playing for the New York Jets this season. But Aaron Rodgers is also under contract with the Green Bay Packers, which means the Packers will be having to trade him, and the Jets will have to be willing to trade for him. And they all have to agree on compensation for that. And that is the biggest holdup. All this drama, all this talk, Brian Gutekunst came out and started talking. Oh, well, we really weren't able to get a hold of Aaron Rodgers, and he wasn't really talking to us, but we did reach out to him, and this, that, and the third. And then Matt LaFleur came out the next day and started talking about, oh, it's going to be a transition to Jordan Love, and the expectation shouldn't be that he should be Aaron Rodgers. Well, duh. Nobody was putting those expectations on Aaron Rodgers that he was going to be the next Brett Favre, a Hall of Fame quarterback. But here we are. You end up being a Hall of Fame quarterback. Nobody's expecting that of Jordan Love. And if you are, you pump your brakes. You don't just expect a guy to be a Hall of Famer. But it's incredible the quarterback play that the Green Bay Packers have had throughout their history. Bart Starr, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. all world champions, all Hall of Famers. Rodgers will be first ballot, no doubt. But it's tiresome talking about this. Yes, I know. It's Tristain on Sports Show. Yes, it's based in Wisconsin. Yes, I have to talk about who many consider the king of sports in this state, the Green Bay Packers. Now, I would argue and say that the Bucks have supplanted them in that spot because of their recent success and their recent championship and the fact that they really have an opportunity to win more and will obviously take advantage of that. But that's a different story for a different day. I don't really enjoy talking about nonsensical garbage. And this is what is coming out of this whole entire situation. You're stuck on compensation. Jets apparently want to give a second-round pick to the Packers for Aaron Rodgers. And you're talking about a guy who was just a year removed from winning his second of back-to-back MVP awards. And you somehow want to give a second and think that's sufficient. Now I can argue and say, no, that's not sufficient. You're going to have to give up a 1. You're going to have to give up a 1. But I'm not in on those negotiations. I'm not doing the day-to-day contact between those teams. So I can't say what they should do. But I'll tell you this. Until there is a trade made, until it is agreed upon and ratified and approved, and Rodgers is for sure going to New York to be a Jet, and the Packers are getting appropriate compensation for him, I don't think there should be any talk about the Green Bay Packers or the New York Jets. This is off-season dramatic fodder, which Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers have provided for sports entities the last few postseasons, or not even postseason, postseason, yeah, because of the failure, and then the failure to make the postseason this past season. But the last few off seasons, it's just been off-season dramatic fodder that I do not particularly enjoy talking about. Because there's nothing to report. There's nothing to add. There's nothing real about this situation. He intends on playing for the New York Jets. But if a trade is not agreed to, if compensation is not agreed to, if a trade is not made official, ratified, approved, and everything else, there's nothing to report. There's nothing to talk about. It's just off-season trash being put to the masses and dressed up as news. And I don't want to participate in that. So, yeah, the Packers are in the news because their GM and their head coach came out talking about the situation with their media availability, with the meetings going on. But there's no news to report. There's nothing to report. I'll say it like this, and I think I speak for a large majority of football fans out there, whether you're a Green Bay Packers fan or you're just a fan of football itself. Just make the damn trade. I'll leave it at that. And that's state of the state. The Wisconsin college teams, unfortunately, not playing for any kind of championships this season. But you're definitely looking forward to next season, unless you're the Wisconsin Badgers. The Milwaukee Bucks continuing their excellence. Mike Budenholzer doing a great job of balancing, keeping guys healthy, and going after the 1 seed, a thorough dismantling of the Indiana Pacers Wednesday night. Team's starting to look real familiar. and the Green Bay Packers, look, there ain't no damn news to report. Just make the damn trade. It's time for us to run the toss sweep. Week 7 of the XFL is about to get started. But y'all know I had to give my thoughts on Week 6 and a huge Monday night matchup. And some other interesting things that popped off in Week 6. This is XFL Week 6 in review, only on the Toss blog, only on tossnationmedia.com. Tossnationmedia.com. Y'all go ahead and go read that. As I mentioned in the teaser, the men's and women's NCAA basketball tournaments are down to their Final Fours. The ladies will get their Final Four started on Friday. The men jump off on Saturday. Women's championship game on Sunday, men's championship game on Monday. Exciting time. We're down to the Final Four. Let's start off with the ladies. Hell of a lot more one seeds made the Final Four in the women's tournament than it did the men's, as in the men's have 0. The ladies have 2. I think the matchup that everyone is looking forward to, Iowa with Caitlin Clark, who may end up being the National Player of the Year, and the current reigning National Player of the Year on South Carolina, Aaliyah Boston. Those two will go at it. Primetime television, that is the marquee matchup of the Final Four for the ladies. I don't care what you say. On the other side, we got LSU, Angel Reese, and you got Virginia Tech, a 1 seed. The Hokies out of the ACC. I got LSU winning that one mainly because of the droughts that Virginia Tech tends to go on and the fact that they don't have anybody that's going to be able to hold Angel Reese. That, like, her size, her ability to go out there and rebound, adept at scoring on the inside, they have nobody that's going to be able to stop her. So I got LSU going to the Natty. And in that marquee matchup, Iowa, South Carolina. South Carolina has been the class of women's basketball all season long. The biggest decision South Carolina is going to have, because nobody's going to be able to hold Aaliyah Boston. Let's be clear. Iowa is not stopping her. It's not happening. She's going to have an impact somehow, whether it be with her rebounding and defense, or if she's just going to straight up dominate on the inside. I mean, I'm not going to say she's going to get a 20-20 game, but don't be surprised if she gets close. But the biggest decision South Carolina is going to have to make is, how do we hold Caitlin Clark? Do we just let her go off and get another 40-point triple-double like she had in the Elite Eight? And that way the other players are kind of diminished in what they do? Or do we kind of minimize her direct impact and let others beat you? No matter what decision they make, I believe South Carolina wins that ball game. And it'll be LSU, South Carolina in the Natty National Championship. And I've got South Carolina winning that. They're battle-tested, defending champions. It'll definitely be a clash between Aaliyah Boston and Angel Reese and down low. But again, battle-tested. And that would be, I believe, like their second or third national championship matchup since 2017. So it's not like these two division foes, or excuse me, conference foes are strangers to each other. They're not. But I believe South Carolina repeats, wins the national championship on the women's side. And then the men's, as I mentioned, 0 1 seeds, 0 2 seeds, 0 3 seeds. You get where I'm going with this. None of the top seeds are a part of the men's Final Four. Some people are calling it the most random Final Four of all time. Maybe. But I will say it's been one of the most exciting because you truly don't know who is going to win. We all made our brackets. We all were super confident in our brackets, only to be shown that we know absolutely nothing. we don't know jack. We know diddly poo. So who are those matchups? Who's in the Final Four for the men? We got the 9th seed, Florida Atlantic, the Owls. I believe they have 34 wins. So it's not like, they're a bad squad. I mean, you got 34 wins at this point. I mean, you're doing something right. And you made the Final Four, and you got 34 wins at this point. You're doing something right. Tough ball squad. Ball squad. Damn, I can't even speak anymore. But very, very tough. San Diego State, speaking of tough. It's the other team in the matchup. 5 seed out of the Mountain West. And people forget, this team back in 2020, before everything got shut down because of COVID, they had 30 wins. They were in line to get like a 1 or 2 seed in the NCAA tournament before everything got shuttered. They were due for this. That foundation had already been laid. They were due for this type of a season, this type of a run. And now they're in the Final Four. The other matchup on Saturday in the Final Four, men's, you got the Miami Hurricanes out of the ACC. How about another tough ball squad going up against the tough and tested out of the Big East, the UConn Huskies, no stranger to Final Fours. Let's go back to that Florida Atlantic San Diego State match. I got San Diego State coming out of that because you talk about 2 tough teams, 2 tough physical teams. But as I mentioned before, San Diego State had this foundation laid. This was the type of run they were supposed to go on back in 2020. They've carried that with themselves. And now they're on that run. I think they get that win and get to the national championship, so I'm going with San Diego State. And then in the other matchup, I'm going UConn. UConn was very good to start the season. They were highly ranked, and then they went through a little funk. People were like, oh, man, they kind of fallen off the map. But then they kind of found it again, and then they started to go on that run. And I've seen Marquette go up against them, and they're a tough matchup. Marquette was fortunate to come out with a win against them. Extremely tough matchup, extremely tough team, very versatile. I'm going to pick them to squeak by because I think that's going to be a close game. I'm going to pick them to squeak by the Miami Hurricanes, and it will be San Diego State, UConn, in the Natty, Monday night. And I'm going with UConn to win it all. Again, I've seen them up close. That is a really good team. Again, they went through their struggles at one point in the season after being highly ranked, but then they found it again, and now they're on that run. I think they win it all. So, to recap, the women's champion, I am going to pick South Carolina. They repeat. And in the men's national championship, I am going with the UConn Huskies to win it all. But if these tournaments have shown us anything, I don't know jack. My bracket is just as messed up as all of y'all's. Don't sit up there in front. Then none of y'all get this Final Four right. We know. But maybe some of us will get the national championship and the national champions correct. So, moving on here in the tall sweep, the XFL back with its third iteration. We are now 6 weeks into it, week 7, getting ready to start. Big time Monday night matchup between the DC Defenders, the Houston Roughnecks, leaders of both divisions, the North and the South. Good ball game. Defenders coming out with that victory, still unblemished. I said in the Toss blog, which you can read at tossnationmedia.com, week 6 in review, that they are the class of the XFL. They have proven that. They've shown that they can win games in a variety of ways. You want a defensive battle? They can do that. You want to throw it? Okay. We can do that, as they showed on Monday night, because they weren't able to run the football, which is actually what they do tremendously better than passing the football. But if you want to run the football, play smash mouth, we can do that. They've shown their versatility, and it's led to a 6-0 record. A big lead in the XFL North Division. I think they will hold on to that spot. And remember, in the XFL, only 4 teams go to postseason, and that's the 2 top teams in both divisions, both the North and the South. That's it. So behind the Defenders in the North, you got the St. Louis Battlehawks at 4-2, and you got the Seattle Sea Dragons at 4-2. Battlehawks kind of like to wait until the last few minutes of the fourth quarter to kind of start going to work and doing their thing and trying to win the ball game, and they've got to get out of that habit. It's good to have that comeback ability, but you don't want to rest your hat on that. If you could take care of business before it, then do so. They did that, winning 29-6 in their week 6 game. Sea Dragons, they took care of business. 4-2. Their bugaboo is the turnover. Ben DiNucci's throwing way too many interceptions. Ellison losing way too many fumbles. Wide receivers losing fumbles. That team holds on to the football. They've got a good enough defense to keep them in games. They need their offense to hold on to the football and go out there and put up points. And we have the league's leading receiver in Ja'Cory Pearson. You got Josh Gordon on the other side. There's no reason for you to be out there and going and put up consistent points, but you got to hold on to the football. But that is a very interesting battle in the North. Both teams 4-2. They face off in week 9, I believe. So, and that's a big one. I mean, head-to-head means a lot. Right now, Seattle behind St. Louis, because St. Louis holds that head-to-head tiebreaker over them. I believe in their week 2 matchup, Seattle winning that ball game. Sea Dragons, a much different team than what they were at that point. Winners of 4 straight after losing their first 2. That division is very, very interesting. Only 2 can go, and I think the Defenders, they got their spot locked up. 4 games remaining. But we'll see. Let's move on to the South. The Houston Roughnecks, as we mentioned, that huge Monday night matchup, they lost. They're now 4-2. They've lost 2 straight after starting the season 4-0. They just got to get back on track. Their offense has kind of sputtered. They're switching quarterbacks now. Defense has blown some assignments. I know Wade Phillips, their head coach, is not happy about that. With their recent 2-game losing streak, they've kind of left the door open there in the South for someone to overtake them for the division lead. Now, the Arlington Renegades played against the San Antonio Brahmas on Sunday. The Renegades had a shot at taking the step forward. They could have been tied as far as wins go in the division. They could have been tied virtually for the division lead. But instead, they dropped that game against the Brahmas. They fall to 3-3 as opposed to going up to 4-2. The Brahmas improved to 2-4. They stopped their losing streak. And it's left the door wide open. Now, let's be clear. The Guardians already out of it. They're not making the playoffs. I don't foresee the Houston Roughnecks losing their remaining games and the Guardians winning their remaining games to make the postseason. I just don't foresee that happening. Guardians 0-6, the only winless team in the entire XFL. But again, with the Roughnecks' loss, Renegades had a shot to step up, but they dropped it against the Brahmas. The Brahmas aren't totally out of it. Again, the top two teams in the division go to the playoffs. If the Renegades, who let go of their quarterback and are in dire need of one, and the Brahmas, who just traded with Arlington last week for Kurt Benkert, who got into their team's playbook on Wednesday, went out and beat them on Sunday. If they can get on a roll, because their defense has been good enough, if they can get on a little bit of a roll, they can overtake the Renegades for that second spot. I don't see the Roughnecks sliding completely out of the first spot, but anything's possible. By far, the best division in all of the XFL is the North, but the South is starting to get interesting if the Roughnecks continue to slide. It becomes a lot more interesting. The Brahmas have what it takes defensively to get back in it, but can they get it going offensively? And the Renegades, they have to figure out their quarterback situation because I think they're a good enough team to get to the playoffs. Will they be able to make noise? No. Are they the favorites that everyone was trying to make them out to be after week one? No. But that race is definitely becoming more and more intriguing. We'll see. We will see. Well, y'all, that'll do it for me. That's episode 128 of Toss Tristain Sports Show. You know where to find me on social media at the20double on Instagram and Twitter. Follow me on both. That's at the20double. That's at the number 2, the number 0, and the word double. Facebook.com/T on Sports Show is your home for the Toss on Facebook page. Touch on a lot of things there that we don't necessarily get a chance to here on this show. It's Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. And of course, Toss Nation Media, your home for the Toss brand of sports. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. But as I said before, it's time for me to go on up out of here. It's T-Squared, Tristan Thomas, reminding all of you to keep it moving forward. Always forward. Forward always. Until next week. So long from Toss.